Hallelujah. 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 Good afternoon, everybody. This is About the Labor Live, and I just realized I forgot to set up Do Not Disturb on my phone again, so hopefully no one will call. Like I said yesterday, I never get calls, because I'm very off-putting. So let's knock on wood, this trendy wood I have in my apartment. I am singing off key, or perfect key, I should say. I'm classically trained because the Vikings announced today, hooray, that they are naming Gary Kubiak as the offensive coordinator for next season. If there was anything I think that really could have just preemptively killed any enthusiasm that I would have had for the 2020-2021 season, it would have been that. If they would have brought in somebody else, if they would have implemented yet another change on this offense. I mean, this under Zimmer, this offense has been really scattershot. You know, you've gone from Norv Turner to Shermer to DiFilippo to Stefanski. And yesterday, somebody in the chat asked me if there was any news regarding the offensive coordinator position, and I talked about Paul Allen essentially saying that he thought that either thought or knew that it was going to be Kubiak. And so it just always felt like it was going to be Kubiak. You know, Zimmer said that he wanted continuity as the number one thing for Cousins. That would have been Kubiak. I think the real variable would have been A, his health and willingness to do it, and B, whether it would be him or his son Clint, who is the quarterback's coach. But it looks like he's up for the gig, and that's just really, really exciting because he's, you know, been a part of 7 different Super Bowls. He won as a head coach with a roster that was supposed to win. That was a dominant defense that brought in a quarterback to get them over the hump in Denver. And, you know, Peyton Manning clearly wasn't Peyton Manning anymore by the end of the second Super Bowl that they made it to, Super Bowl 50. But they still ended up, you know, winning. And I think that it's something to get excited about. You know, there's just been a lot of consternation. I mean, I titled the episode yesterday when I posted it on Vikings Territory, basically Cut Everyone Edition, because, you know, Rocky, you were here yesterday, and you wanted to cut a bunch of people. We talked about roster, dead cap hits, the salary cap situation, and there's not just very much positive going around. It just kind of feels like they went all in to win either in 2018 or 2019, and clearly they didn't win, and anything after this is just going to be them attempting to get over the hump. The show was liked by Irv Smith, Irv Smith Sr. If you're watching, thanks, man. We really appreciate all the tweets and the retweets and the shout-outs and everything. And here on my show and at VikingsTerritory.com and PurplePTSD.com, the websites I own, we're huge fans of your son. And I have a feeling that you're liking the title of this show, because if Kubiak is known for anything outside of the zone blocking or the zone run scheme, it's running 2 tight end sets. And a lot of people, I think, were under the wrong impression in regards to Kyle Rudolph's contract situation. It was reported incorrectly or strangely at the time when they restructured his deal, or did his extension, rather. And a lot of people thought there was no dead cap space this next year, and that the Vikings were going to move on from him and rely solely on Irv Smith Jr. That isn't the case. There's a significant enough of a dead cap hit for Rudolph to be around, but why wouldn't they keep him? I mean, he had a great year. He still catches like 80% of the balls you throw his way, and Kubiak, you know, I think likes tight ends that can do more than one thing, not just pass-catching tight ends, and that's what Irv Smith Jr. is really, you know, good at. I mean, he surprised a lot of people. Coming out of college, they knew that he was perhaps, you know, a better blocker than Rudolph was, which I wasn't saying a whole lot because Rudolph was known as a non-blocking tight end. But I think both of them really put in work and surprised Kubiak and everyone with that work and their blocking ability. And so David Morgan was hurt as well. But historically, Kubiak has gone with a guy who can block first over a guy who can catch. You've seen that time and time again. And so having two guys that can do both, I think, is going to be incredibly important in this upcoming season. And we didn't really see the full breadth of what Kubiak and his system could do. I think a lot of people were expecting a lot more out of the tight ends. I think a lot of that was more of a Stefanski thing. I think, Kubiak wasn't calling plays on Sunday. He was just helping with the scouting and game planning, but he wasn't on the field calling those plays. And I think we're going to see a ton out of the tight end positions coming up next season. I really think that this also should kind of allay some of our fears about Zimmer yet again overlooking the offensive line in the draft. If there's anybody, and I did just put an article up on purpleptsd.com if you want to read my thoughts about this, but if there's anyone that can kind of offset Zimmer in the draft room and saying, you know what, we don't need to go for a 3-tech in the first round. We don't need to go for another corner in the first round, or maybe a safety depending on what happens with Anthony Harris. They're going to need a left tackle. Regardless of what happens with Riley Reef, they can't really cut him. He is due a ton of money, though, over $13 million. And so hopefully they can find somebody in the first round to play left tackle that can start right away. I don't know. I don't want them to move Brian O'Neill to left tackle, but that idea is warming to me because of just how bad the left side of that line was. I said this yesterday, and I don't want to be too repetitive, but I don't think that we talked a lot about how bad the line was because, they looked really, really good in the run game, especially on the right side. And a lot of the consternation, again, was about Cousins getting him out of the pocket. Why aren't they getting him out of the pocket? I know. I saw that, Taylor. I know. I was so sad. But we weren't talking about pass protection. And this, according to PFF, this was the 27th ranked offensive line in pass protection last year. That's clearly not good enough. You can't really work magic as these, with Dennison coming in. I think they made massive improvements. I think that there's some things to look forward to in terms of Bradbury and Klein and O'Neal, and then maybe even Samia as the left guard. I don't know. Elfline pains me. That whole thing pains me. But that's got to be the goal this offseason is to fix the left side of that line. And if they do that, I just think the sky could still be the limit for this offense. I think we saw in long enough stretches last season for that not to be statistically a fluke or something, that under the right circumstances with Cousins, this offense can compete with anyone. And I feel like if there's any single person, and I'm not just saying this because of the news, if there's any single person in the entire stratosphere of the NFL that can come in from a coaching perspective, from an offensive coordinator position, and figure this out, it's Kubiak. And the team that he brings with him, or that's already here. I feel like it would have been more palatable for okay, we've really treated the offensive line as an afterthought during the Zimmer tenure. And that would have been fine if the defense where the investment went was on the level of the Niners defense. But it's just never shown that it's been able to do that. And so really the answer is going to end up being the offense. We're going to need a high-powered offense. The defense can still be good to maybe great, but it's never going to be elite. And so we need an offense that can score 30 points. And that's what was so frustrating this year is in the games that they won, the Vikings scored over 30 points on average. In the games they lost, they only scored 17.3. And it's finding that disconnect. I think you guys all know what my thoughts are on that. But really trying to make that a much more consistent thing. It's not peaks and canyons. It should be more up peaks all the time. I mean, it was either this offense was really, really good great, sometimes elite, or awful. Like the first preseason game of all rookies, awful. And I always point to the difference between the 2013 and the 2014 Ravens. Go read about that. Read about the personnel changes they made on offense, which was really none, at least from the starters, and what Kubiak did there. That should encourage you guys a little bit. I'll write an article about it. But I just wanted to hop on and celebrate amongst you guys. I'm having a feeling that the you guys aren't getting notifications for some reason, so I'll look into that. But it's what they had to do. I'm relieved. I'm happy. It makes me a little more excited for next season, and I'm very, very, very just again relieved. Taylor, would you want to introduce the Jerbies to the show? So we got a couple new members to our family.
They'll be able to see them through the ball?
Yeah.
Oh, you potted in your ball again?
My fiance loves critters, and I love critters too.
So I don't know if you guys can see. Hold still, buddy. This is Mia.
He's a gerbil.
Miyazaki. And here's Hayo, who's a little bit more shy. Wait. Ooh. Well, not his butt.
That's a good shot. Butt shot. He's twerking.
He really likes his ball, but he's kind of tentative about ball.
I tried to get purple and gold balls, but they were too small. There's a joke there somewhere. Anyway, thanks guys for, again, coming back yesterday. I know I had some time off. Oh, there he is. Hello.
He got nervous.
He said, I'm not ready for my close-up.
Quit peeing in your ball.
But it's good news, so we can be happy for a couple days. I'll be back tomorrow.